In the quiet town of Eastwick, where nothing ever changes, three beautiful women are about to discover powers they never dreamed they had.
Who should we be looking for? He should be really handsome. Nice eyes.
Now, the man of their dreams is here.
Jane, at last we meet.
To stay for a spell.
Who are you?
Just your average, horny little devil.
With the Witches of Eastwick.
We could do things you haven't any idea.
You know what's going on up in that house?
She says she sees the devil here in Eastwick. If you were the devil, would you come to Eastwick?
Oh, I don't know.
Are you going to seduce me too?
Women, a mistake? Or did he do it to us on purpose?
Jack Nicholson, Cher, Susan Sarandon, Michelle Pfeiffer. The Witches of Eastwick.
Hocus pocus.
Hello.
Hi.
We're back again.
We're back.
Listeners. Everybody.
Episode 51.
Episode 51. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for joining us. Everybody listening, you all know it. My name's Pete.
And I'm Scott.
And these are the movies
that made us gay.
Yay!
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show. Got another
boy.
fun one.
Oh boy, Pete.
Yeah.
We did a movie that I have been excited to do for a while.
Yes, you have.
This is a movie that
Yes,
I was obsessed with as a kid. And before we get too into it, we have to introduce our guest that we watched this movie with. Well, we didn't actually watch it with them. We watched it with them in spirit.
Yes.
It's a podcast crossover.
Podcast crossover.
We had Paul and Erika from That Aged Well.
Yay.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. Oh, my goodness. Such
so
applause.
excited to be here.
We're excited to have you.
Is this the first podcast crossover that you've done? We've done a few.
Oh,
this is the first one we've done, yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
I
this
like
is like those CW shows when like the Smallville gang joins the whatever gang.
Yes, indeed. This is our Avengers Endgame crossover.
Yeah.
I've always noticed that
event.
This is like when Ally McBeal and Private Practice met up in 1 week to solve a case together.
I like it.
It's like that week in the 90s where all the NBC sitcoms had a blackout episode.
Remember that? Yes. It doesn't make sense when you just watch that one episode of Friends now and Chandler's trapped in a bank. But then when you watched it that night, it was like...
But somehow that's the only one that like survived into the 2 a.m.
Oh, yes,
like,
indeed.
No one remembers the Seinfeld blackout episode.
No, not at all. What were the other ones?
The single guy.
With Jonathan Silverman. I love the single guy.
Yeah.
Was this too old for... was this too early for Suddenly Susan? Had that not been on the must-see TV lineup yet?
I don't remember the timing.
I think it was before Suddenly Susan, yeah.
I
Because
think
it's first
so.
season Friends.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yep. He's trapped.
I want to say the fourth one was Frasier, and they did not participate in the crossover.
Oh,
lame.
Come on. Well, they were in Seattle. It wouldn't have made any sense.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, is it a national?
Yeah.
It is an emergency.
Oh,
We
my
should
God.
not be having like funny conversations in a national blackout.
Must-see TV, just bringing the nation together. You know?
Exactly.
That's what NBC4 did at the time. Well, welcome to the show. This is awesome.
Show. Our
Thank
movies,
you. Thanks for having us.
sometimes
You're
our
welcome.
movies do sometimes crossover. We do similar movies.
Yes,
we
indeed.
haven't done the same movie in the same week yet. It is
Yes.
going to happen though. It's going to be a big deal when we pick the same movie and the episodes drop on the same week.
We'll plan it. Well, it'll be, it'll be definitely on purpose. With intention.
Right.
With intention, as they say.
So we had you over to watch The Witches of Eastwick from 1987, directed by George Miller, based on the novel by John Updike.
Hey.
Yes.
So I have a past with this movie.
Okay.
Do we all want to talk about when we first watched The Witches of Eastwick?
Of course. Let's have our guests give us a little breakdown of your earliest memory with this movie and your initial thoughts of when you first saw it.
Do you want me to go first, Erika?
Let me go first because this is the saddest one. Literally today. I watched this movie today for the first time.
It's a wild movie just to jump in.
Yeah.
And like all I want to do now is buy like flowing satin nightgowns and run through mansions.
Yes. I need
my
like
hair.
a good ankle length skirt with a midriff top, just in every color.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make a blonde friend and a redhead friend and run through a mansion together.
They're like the members of Twisted Sister.
Sure. Just buy some stock and balloons and a helium machine or helium tank.
Fantasy.
I remember this movie when we used to go to the video store growing up. Okay, kids, a video store was where you used to have to go to get movies if you wanted to watch them at home. And I remember the cardboard cutout for this movie, and it was the little tiny figure of Jack Nicholson in the lightning storm, and then like the three women, like the faces were above it. And I guess I was 12 when this movie came out. And I remember seeing that thing. It was probably like about as tall as I was. And like not understanding what it was, but just being like, who are those three women? And completely ignoring Jack Nicholson, like in every way.
As one should.
Yeah, especially in this movie.
Oh, we'll get into that.
My mother, who was with me, I was like, what is this movie? And she was like, it's too old for you. You can't watch it. And it stayed with me that I couldn't watch it. So I actually didn't watch it until I was like, I don't know, probably like 16 or 17 years old.
Sure.
And there's so much dick size and dick angle talk in this movie.
Yeah.
And it was a delight. It really opened my eyes to some certain things.
Yeah.
Some options.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, indeed. I remember being the same or similar age when it came out and just thinking that this movie is for grown-ups. Like, I have no business watching this at all. And I remember seeing it on VHS. And actually, I was just watching Steven Universe today because I'm a big nerd. And one of the characters showed him a tape, and they're like, "You watch this tape." And he's like, "What is that?" And they said, "It's like a DVD, but shaped like a box." I just thought that was really funny. But I remember watching it on VHS. My parents must have rented it or something, and I just snuck and watched it. And again, yes, the dick. Grown women talking about men's bodies to me as a kid was just like, what? Mind blowing. I remember thinking Jack Nicholson just was repulsive in this movie.
Thank you. What the hell?
Everything about him, from like the tiny ponytail, the crazy shoulder pads, like
Doesn't he just look greasy?
He just looked
like
oily.
If you touched his face, it would just like grease on your fingers.
Yes, not just the hair, but the face, everything. Yeah, this movie is grotesque in many ways. There are awful sound effects throughout. There's like some sound effect work that will make your stomach turn. It is not for the weak of heart. But that being said, my mother was a huge Cher fan.
Good woman.
Yeah. So I had that just ingrained that like Cher is awesome. She can do no wrong, you know. So I had that going for me. I liked Michelle Pfeiffer, and I feel like I'm wondering if we didn't see this until a couple of years later, because I don't know if I'm mixing up my memories of loving her from Catwoman or if I just saw her in this and was just obsessed with that face, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, cold sore aside, her face in this movie.
Congratulations on that face.
We have to talk about that.
We have to talk about
very confused.
The cold sore. There are so many questions about this cold sore. I mean, is it a choice? Who knows? We'll get there. But yeah, I remember being just a kid and thinking the women were beautiful, the men were awful and disgusting, and I remember thinking, okay, it's the Witches of Eastwick, and then thinking to myself, but were they witches?
The mythology is so screwy. What's happening?
They did magic things, and they're women, and they used their power together. But how much of their power was coming from him? Like presumably they've known each other for 20 years. Right?
Why did it's suddenly kick in.
Yeah.
That they suddenly have powers.
That is something that the book goes into a little more, and I have read the book.
Oh, well. Okay.
Oh.
So,
I've
Mr. Smarty Pants here.
Poindexter.
So my background with this movie, I think I remember watching this when I was probably around 12. I think that this was just a movie that my parents just rented. It's just like 7 videos for $7 at the local video store, and Witches of Eastwick was in it. And of course, I was familiar with Michelle Pfeiffer and Cher and Susan Sarandon, and I was just really excited to watch it. And then I did watch it. I don't remember if I watched it with my mom or if I watched it by myself. Not. I do not remember. Which is funny when you look back now. It's like, this movie is not for children at all.
No.
But I remember watching it and just being fucking obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Like, I loved it. It was one of my favorite movies as a kid. And then we had it at my grandparents' house on Laserdisc. And I used to watch the Laserdisc a lot. I still to this day know where you had to turn the disc. It was after the cello lesson with Susan and Jack. Okay. That's where you had to flip it.
The sexy cello lesson.
But yeah, I just remember just being fascinated with it. And I think that my fascination with it is that this is an adult movie. This is a movie about adult problems.
Yeah.
And just 12-year-old Scott was just very fascinated with these, like, divorcees. All of them has a different backstory. They're just kind of starting over with each other. I really like that angle. And, yeah, I don't think I had a lot of interest in Jack Nicholson's character, but I just watched it just for them, just for what they wore, just how their hair looked like. I just wanted to be each and every one of them. They all just had these really cool qualities about them. And also, like Pete's background, I remember my mom really liking Cher also. So this was my introduction to Cher. Wasn't really Cher the musician. It was Cher the movie star. So it was this, Moonstruck, Mask, and Mermaids.
Mermaids!
I watched Mermaids on repeat.
Yeah,
I have Mermaids memorized.
I love that.
So yeah, and it's one of those movies that when I revisit this movie now, I'm just like, damn, it's just like this movie is a lot.
It is a lot.
What did, like, 13-year-old Scott think of all of this?
Did you get, when you were 13, that they were having, like, a menage a quatre?
Oh, of course.
Did you understand what that was when you were a kid?
I think this probably introduced me to just the idea of just swinger couples and threesomes also.
Group sex.
And just, like, dick talk, like, women having gal time and talking like the guys.
It was definitely one of the first times I heard the word dildo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, Veronica Cartwright. She gets such a raw deal in this movie.
She's so brilliant
so
in it.
She is. She's so good.
I actually don't think she gets a raw deal.
Okay.
I think she steals the movie. Honestly.
If they made this today, Toni Collette would play that role.
Yes.
Oh my God, yes, for sure.
And it's one of those things that I'm kind of surprised looking back now that how did Veronica Cartwright just not walk away with, like, the Oscar and Golden Globe? It's like, how did they not push that performance more?
It was a genre movie.
But it got in for score, really great score by John Williams, and sound.
Yeah.
They couldn't just slip that performance in on the ballot somewhere?
Snowy egrets. Where will they nest?
Where will the snowy egrets nest, you guys?
I forgot that part, and I actually looked up. I'm like, are snowy egrets native to Rhode Island? They are.
Oh.
Look at you doing research.
But I was like, I grew up in the Northeast, like the Rhode Island area, kind of, and I was like, I don't remember any snowy egrets growing up. This is bullshit.
That's what's sticking in your craw about this movie.
So, and
that was my sticking point.
And how they talk about the mansion, is it just sitting there vacant? That just snowy egrets have just overtaken this gigantic property?
There's so much land. This mansion is
Have you guys seen this mansion in other movies? Because it's photographed a lot.
I don't know.
I looked it up. It's in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
It was last seen in Little Women. The new one.
Oh.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's that shot of Florence Pugh sitting, waiting for the carriage.
There's also some interiors from Greystone Mansion, a.k.a. the school from Gilmore Girls.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I figured
recognize some of those.
Okay. I figured that it was just kind of a cut and paste job of, like, they built the pool, they used the exterior mostly for for all those crazy exterior shots. That tennis game, oh my God.
Okay, on our podcast, I have talked a lot about actors who can't play basketball playing basketball and how bonkers it makes me. I would like to make an addendum publicly on this podcast that actors who can't play tennis playing tennis also makes me... They're standing in the exact wrong part of the court. They're standing in the part of the court that is literally called no man's land to play tennis.
You know, it takes a lot of people to produce a movie. Nobody on set that day was like,
Yeah, right. Maybe. Like they should be, one should be behind the baseline, one should be in the box. That's how
I don't think they could have framed the shot right if they weren't as close together.
I'm sure they could have figured it out. There are other tennis movies out there. And isn't I think I remember the whole thing with the ball being, you know, I don't think it's computer generated, but it's, you know, inserted in post somehow. And I was watching it last night thinking, I think they're not using a ball at all, like in person. Yeah. I think they are just completely just dropped that in post. I mean, obviously, obviously 100%. The one crazy magic shot, but the other shots where they're just playing, I was like, they're hitting that ball so precisely.
All I could think about during that scene is Susan Sarandon wearing a bathing suit to play tennis?
I thought she was wearing a baby's romper that had somehow been enlarged. You know, something shrink in the wash.
It looks like
stretched it.
I love that of all of these women, Janie takes to being like a sex bomb the quickest.
Oh yeah,
she's the one that like. She's always like she does a complete 180 from her school matron.
Well, she's got like the red hair, so obviously has that like fiery personality.
Right.
Yeah, that tennis outfit. The little skirt that's like not quite a skirt.
It is a bathing suit.
It is a bathing suit. Yeah.
All I could think of is I was like, she's going to be sweating in that. That's not good for your parts.
No, she's in a bathing suit. Cher is in denim overalls with a tool belt. She rode her bike with the full tool belt full of tools and like art sculptress supplies all the way from her home. I know they're in a hurry. It's just a quick little buckle. Just take it off.
Michelle's in an actual tennis outfit.
Michelle Pfeiffer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she's just kind of wearing shorts, right? And like a top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she looks normal for tennis.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why she wins the match.
Hey, there you go. Right. And he hadn't got to her yet. Well, let's get a little overview of their characters, I guess. Their archetypes.
So we have Alex. Alex is kind of the ringleader of the three. She's kind of the alpha female of this trio. Mm-hmm. And Alex is I think that she owns like a craft shop. It's the Yapping Fox.
Oh, they even go into that?
Yeah.
I don't recall.
It's when
I missed that part.
It's where she sells all of her stuff at. You know, I think that she's going there to sell her booby dolls.
Okay.
And she lives on this beautiful...
On the dock on a pier?
This beautiful pier.
What is
that? Looks
what
like
is this house?
It's going to flood at any moment.
Yeah. That was weird. And this is Cher.
Yes.
This is Cher's character. So Cher has one daughter that is school age, I'm assuming. The daughter looks to be like a kid.
I think she's like 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Right? Like, she's definitely older than all of Michelle Pfeiffer's kids.
Yes, for sure.
Who look to be the same age.
She had all those kids,
she has
one after another.
She had 6 tuplets.
There might be multiple twins in there.
Yeah.
And her character... I was going to say, her whole character note for Sookie is that she gets pregnant really easy. So that's why she has all these kids.
Yeah. Clearly.
Can you imagine being a single mother and looking like Michelle Pfeiffer?
Oh my God.
They're trying to make her look haggard and exhausted, and they can't do it.
It's impossible.
I thought that same thing. I'm watching the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, this bitch isn't single. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's like, congratulations on that face, Michelle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She could have 45 children, and the men would still be lining up.
Yeah, this is true. Maybe that's where the cold sore came in. Maybe they're just like, she's too beautiful.
Yeah,
we've got to like mess her up a little bit. I guess her whole character thing is that she's got a lot of kids.
She has a lot of kids, and she works for the town paper.
Yes.
Yeah. And she's a little like new agey more than the other two.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
There are hints that she does have like some preternatural powers early in the film because she keeps making zucchini jelly because she can't stop growing zucchinis.
Right.
Like her zucchinis can't stop growing. And then her desk at work has like tons of flowers everywhere. Like she can't stop growing flowers.
Sure.
So there's something like about her where she just can't stop being fertile.
she's a fertile goddess.
And then there's this one line, and it's kind of a throwaway line, but it was super weird. And Scott and I always talk about this when we watch the movie, is that first scene where they're having their Thursday girls' night, they're drinking martinis by the pitcher.
Oh, they should be blacked out by the end of that.
And she's just at work the next day, like nothing happened.
Yep.
And when she finally does have her first, like, rendezvous with Daryl, she mentions that alcohol and drugs have no effect on her. Did anybody catch that? What?
Yes.
What is it? Yeah, so I was like, okay, she was just drinking vodka out of a pitcher like nobody's business. Although none of them showed any sign of being drunk.
They're all seem to be fine. I remember the first time I saw that was the first time I saw a picture of martinis, and it was my realization in life that you could have a pitcher of martinis, which I didn't know before this movie.
This is what when I turned 21, I thought that I might enjoy martinis, so I always order them, even though they taste like lighter fluid.
Yeah,
I think it came from my love of the girls' night scenes and the martinis.
Yeah, mine was Cosmopolitans because of Sex in the City, and
sure.
that was a lie. That was a lie they told us.
At least Cosmo sort of has that like cranberry flute flavor to cut the vodka a little bit with.
A little bit of sweetness on a Cosmo. But yeah, they're Thursday nights. Why Thursday? Why not Friday?
I mean, when we go out a lot on Thursdays. It's a fun night of the week to go out. So I guess you can stay in and do the same thing. And maybe they're busy and stuff on weekends too.
Okay.
They have to catch each other midweek.
Okay. And, so Susan's character.
It's Janie. Janie is the director of an elementary school band. This is another thing with the band, is that there's so many age ranges with these children.
There are, like, first graders playing, like, brass instruments.
There's, like, a kindergartner with the cymbals. But whatever, it's a movie. I guess suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
So she's kind of introduced as a type A personality, and then she's kind of... I think Daryl does the most for her to kind of rediscover her inner goddess.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Well, she definitely has the biggest change in the movie, right?
Yes.
Like, the other two don't really change that much.
Right.
She goes, like, full, like, sex goddess.
Yes. And Sookie and Janie are divorced, and Alex is a widower.
Is a widow.
A widow.
Yeah.
Widower is...
As a man.
Is a man, as I found out by Sleepless in Seattle.
Yes, and they have their weekly, drunken evenings, and as gals do, they just talk about meeting men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Who should we be looking for?
Somebody nice, somebody you could like, somebody with a brain, somebody you could talk to.
Someone you could really be yourself.
Yes. Someone to watch over me. All right. I've had it with you two, okay?
Oh.
Well, we definitely have to be from out of town.
Well, especially considering what's in town, Janie.
A stranger, that would be interesting. A tall, dark prince traveling under a curse.
In Eastwick.
Romantic. A foreign prince on a big black horse.
All right, no, okay. If we're going to have it, let's have it all.
So do they conjure him?
It kind of hints that they do.
I would say they do.
Okay. I agree.
They summon him.
Yeah.
Summoning him. He's drawn to their energy.
Sure. And I mean, the big question, I don't even know if it's a question. It is for me. Maybe it's not for everybody else. It might be more apparent. Is he the devil?
That was so unclear. Yes and no. Because like later in the movie when he's like railing at God, he says him, but then he refers to like himself as we. as though there are like other devils, and he's not the only one.
Like he's a demon, but not the devil.
Yeah.
Right.
He's an archduke of hell, not Satan himself.
Okay.
So I do have to say about this scene, if I were to somehow find myself at Cher's Malibu mansion, this is exactly how I would picture her greeting me at the door with her hair done up, wearing these like leggings and her cute little boots.
She was wearing like mucklucks and I feel like Cher had a big hand in her character's wardrobe. I don't know why.
Oh, sure.
It was just fully wardrobe provided by Cher's closet.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah, Alex is very rock and roll.
Yes.
So I was reading on IMDb trivia, so I'm gonna take that with a grain of salt. That when they began filming, Cher was cast as Janie, and Janie was cast as
Susan Sarandon.
Susan Sarandon was cast as Alex, and they traded roles.
Oh,
so I think the idea
that was the right choice.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but this just had to be Cher.
It had to be. There's something about her outfit there when she does her initial takedown on Daryl.
Oh,
and I haven't seen this movie in years, and she started, and I was like, I remember this scene. I remember this amazing, amazing takedown, and it's so Cher. It's so wonderful. It's like Loretta Castorini from Moonstruck with like the volume turned up.
Yeah, and it's like it's so natural. It's like you just believe that she's speaking this speech, and it's just coming right off the top of her head. It's just like, wow, it's really good.
I mean, they're both excellent actors, so they could both carry it off. But you're right; it's like the most natural thing in the world to have Cher be the boss.
Well,
of team.
To that point, I was talking to Scott about this last night. I said I could see Susan Sarandon playing Alex pretty easily. I think she could handle that role, but I feel like if I saw Cher playing the Susan Sarandon role, I'd be like, something's not right here.
Yeah, I don't know if Cher has that mousiness in her.
Yeah.
Like she's Cher.
Yeah.
She's Cher Prime.
Yeah.
It works for the it works for the early scenes of Moonstruck, but that role is completely different though.
Yeah. And that's not even mousy, that's just like she's still very strong in Moonstruck. She's just muted.
Yeah. So maybe she would have played that character a little differently too.
Yeah.
Interesting, but yeah, the casting is pretty perfect as far as the three of them go.
And it's interesting because I have read the book. I read the book in college, and this book is completely different from the movie. They take sort of the core themes and a little bit of the characters. Even the main characters are described very different from the book. So they maybe get certain plot points of the book, but they essentially just took the idea and wrote an original screenplay from it. And I'm glad that they did that because when you look at the book, it would not have adapted. Like, it's good in terms of this works as a novel. This would not work as a movie script. They even took out a whole subplot of the book that has to do with Richard Jenkins and Veronica Cartwright's daughter, who Daryl ends up marrying.
Oh, jeez.
And the three women end up essentially giving her cancer and killing her.
What?
Oh my god!
Yeah, that's a whole subplot that's taken out of the book.
Wow.
Oh, now I have to read this book.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I think some scholars at the time kind of congratulated him that this is primarily a very masculine male author writing female characters. And while it's successful, some people do say it's a little misogynist because it's sort of the patriarchy writing these concepts about women. And you can kind of make the debate of the movie that this is a movie made by men, like, about women. So yeah,
I can see that.
It kind of tips and balances a little bit if you want to go that direction.
Yeah, but however, the conversations and the dialogue between those three I was very surprised that this was directed and written by men.
Right.
When I was actually expecting the writer to be like maybe not quite like a Nora Ephron, but like but like a woman, because it felt really organic, actually, and pretty natural. I mean, a little on the silly side, but like it didn't feel like a man's take on women,
right?
When I was watching it.
Yeah, And, I mean, directed by George Miller.
George Miller. Mad Max.
That blew my mind.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. I had it in my head. It was Griffin Dunne because he directed Practical Magic.
Yep.
And I was like, nope, it's not Griffin Dunne. It's someone else. And then I looked it up and I could not believe George Miller's career is insane.
So crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Witches of Eastwick and Mad Max. Those are his top 3.
And also, he won his Academy Award for a family movie for Happy Feet.
Yeah.
So it's like Happy Feet essentially got Mad Max Fury Road greenlit.
Bless Happy Feet then. I do love me some Fury Road.
And also,
he also directed Dead Calm, which is this bonkers movie about 3 people on a boat.
That's so crazy.
I was reading back and forths between George Miller and Cher, that George Miller thought she was too old for the role. And Cher sort of had to put her foot down and was like, I'm motherfucking Cher.
I can play this part, okay? Wow.
Cher is not too old for that role today.
I know. I still buy her.
I was looking up that
Still do it.
Cher and Susan Sarandon are the same age.
Oh, geez. Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, George Miller kind of like, I think that's where you get the really visceral elements of this movie. The
100%.
You know, the awful sound effects, Felicia's crazy broken leg, you know, those crazy elements that I think another director might not have gone there because it might be a little too over the top for, you know, the audience. Maybe they thought maybe this would be a woman's movie and women wouldn't want to see these like gross out, you know, vomit scenes and all of that. But
it's true. He like leans into the body horror.
Yeah.
Of like the part where she's throwing up the cherry.
Oh my God.
I loved that. It was so great.
You love gross things so much.
I do.
But that's something that as kids that had no business watching this, that's just something that you remember that sticks out, that you're just like, there's this scene where they're puking, you know, and it brings you back to that, you know, Stand By Me scene, you know.
Oh, yes.
But, yeah, the body horror. I think there's a lot of stuff in this that like with the voodoo doll, you know, all that stuff. It's like, that is not very graphic. It's a wax figure and, you know, he doesn't bleed or anything, but the way it's cut together and the way it's done, it is very like, I don't know. It's just so effective. And I think that has a lot to do probably with George Miller.
Do you know what I think is one of the more effective scenes of how it's cut and how it's written and how it's acted is when they're all, after the symphony, they're all trying to remember Daryl's name.
Yeah.
And how that scene, it's like the camera's tracking and you're hearing everybody, well, I don't know, like it begins with a D and I can't remember it. And everyone's having the same conversation.
Yeah.
And then it lands on Sookie saying Daryl and her pearls break and Felicia falls down the stairs.
Yeah.
There are so many pearls on that necklace. That's hundreds of pearls.
Like showgirl style.
It was just, the necklace was to the floor and she just looped it and looped it and looped it around her neck.
Yes. Like a flapper.
Yeah. And everyone's just standing at the top of the stairs looking at Felicia. They're so in shock that no one can even move. They're just staring at her.
Yeah. But yeah, that is a crazy scene.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't they remember his name? Because he's a demon, I guess. So we did talk a little bit about Cher's speech. Each one of them has this like introduction to Daryl, and in each, I think in Cher's scene with him, he's the most off-putting, right?
Yes, he's the grossest.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the thing. Had this not been Jack Nicholson, had this been Warren Beatty.
It was almost Bill Murray.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I think Bill Murray was offered it. I don't know if he accepted it and then like didn't want to do it, but yeah, they originally shot for Bill Murray.
Wow.
That's insane.
Which I think could have worked.
There are no sex scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
So
Thank
that's fine.
you, George Miller.
But like even the parts where they have to kiss him, I'm just like imagining those three women kissing Bill Murray.
Yeah.
and my brain is frying.
Yeah. And some of the dialogue that he says to Cher specifically coming out of Bill Murray's mouth, I'm like, I don't.
Yes.
It would be it would be too much of a joke. That whole scene would be too much just played for comedy with him.
Yeah. So I have a thing with Jack Nicholson where like Hollywood has been telling me for 30 years that Jack Nicholson is incredibly attractive.
Right.
And I don't know why. Like he's a brilliant actor. Nothing against his acting, but I find him so physically repulsive.
Yeah.
In like every movie, not just in this one, like every movie.
Yeah.
So I'm like, every time they cast him as like a romantic lead, I picture Warren Beatty instead in my head. I'm like, okay, if this were Warren Beatty, how would I be? Like a man of the same age, but who's actually attractive.
Right.
If this were Robert Redford, how would I be reacting to this character?
And you... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, you can't even use the excuse of like, well, at the time, you know, body standards for like men's bodies were different. But it's like, no, Robert Redford and Paul Newman and and Warren Beatty all had great bodies. Jack Nicholson was always just a little, looks like one of your dad's friends.
Little fluffy.
Yeah.
Little doughy.
Yeah.
There's just something so unappealing, just fundamentally unappealing about Jack Nicholson to me that like it never works in any movie. And so like it helped me in this case though.
Yes.
Like watching this movie, it was like leaning into it of like how gross he is. And when Cher says, "You are the most unattractive man I've ever seen in my entire life," I was like, yes.
I also think like it helps so much. I mean, because this movie is not about them falling in love with a hot guy. It's essentially about these women getting like dickmatized,
right?
And like,
totally,
like they just want to get more,
right?
And so it's not at all about what he looks like, because they even say like in the initial scene they're like someone handsome but not too handsome, and then they all like acknowledge like this guy doesn't. They don't act as if physically he's gorgeous.
Yeah,
they actually act as if he's kind of physically repulsive, but they still need that D.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Well, you know, I have to admit that I appreciate your directness, Daryl, and I will try and be as direct and honest with you as I possibly can be. I am positive that you are the most unattractive man I have ever met in my entire life. You know, in the short time we've been together, you have demonstrated every loathsome characteristic of the male personality and even discovered a few new ones. You are physically repulsive, intellectually retarded, you're morally reprehensible, vulgar, insensitive, selfish, stupid, you have no taste, a lousy sense of humor, and you smell. You know, you're not even interesting enough to make me sick.
I mean...
I want to memorize that speech and just say it to people on the street.
I want to make that speech my wedding vows.
Erika, put that on my gravestone.
Can I embroider that on a pillow? But then, you know, he turns around and says some nonsense to her, some like psychobabble, like double speak. And she just starts making out with him.
But and so like he's telling each of them exactly what they want to hear, and what they need, what they quote unquote need to hear.
Daryl can be all things to all of these women.
Self-confidence.
Yeah,
it's smart. It's smart writing, I think.
Yeah. Well, like later on when they're talking about like their fears, and Susan Sarandon kind of has this like. Just essentially like, I'm afraid of aging and getting old and dying and my body like withering and all that. And Cher, I don't like snakes. What?
She's like, I'm Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Michelle Pfeiffer's like, there's so much pain in the world and pain and suffering. She's just like, nobody said anything about snakes. Snakes, bitch. But it's a good visual.
It is.
I wonder if that was in the book.
Yeah, it must have been.
I don't remember. So I was also reading for the background of this movie. This movie is produced by John Peters. Are you guys familiar with John Peters?
I'm not.
So John Peters is this loony executive at Warner Brothers that used to date Barbra Streisand.
He was her hairdresser.
He was her hairdresser and boyfriend.
He was her hairdresser that she was in a long-term relationship with, and essentially became a producer by the power of just being in close proximity to Barbara for so long. And,
that's the best story ever.
Yeah, but his demands on movie sets are notorious.
They would get crazy
so out of control.
That he would just want just all of this random shit in movies just for the purpose of it. And I guess one of his bizarre requests for George Miller was that John Peters wanted an alien in the movie somewhere. That he just requested that just drop an alien somewhere in the movie. And John Peters probably saw the movie Aliens, which was out in 1986, and just figured the folks really like those aliens, so you should put it in the movie.
Yeah. I think George Miller threatened to quit. I think he was booking a flight back to Australia.
I think Warner almost replaced him mid-shoot too.
Yeah, just because he didn't want to move forward with these crazy demands.
So I guess during the snake scene, when they were shooting it with Cher, she was like, "Which one's John Peters?"
That's like if all directors now were like, we need to put Thor in a movie. Just put Thor in this. Put him in Thor.
I mean, if anybody bothers to see the new Scooby-Doo movie, they kind of decided to throw in some superheroes for no reason. In a Scooby-Doo movie, of all things, so stupid. But yeah, I mean, John Peters famously wanted a giant mechanical spider in a Superman movie. And the directors were like, no, no, no. And we finally got it in the Wild Wild West. And we saw how successful that was.
It was
that's his fault.
It was the Nick Cage Superman movie.
Yeah.
That they were doing.
So he's a kook, and he had a big hand in this. But
that's like if you give a child like control of a film set, and they're like, I want ice cream in this movie. Put ice cream in it.
Yeah. Super crazy. But I mean, we didn't get an alien, but we got that crazy demon puppet Nicholson creature at the end of the movie. That was
probably the compromise.
I didn't love that. I didn't love the weird CGI supernatural ending.
Yeah. I do think, not to skip ahead a little bit, the ending does feel like it was reshot. Whatever they got was not working with test audiences. So they kind of threw in that kitchen scene. I don't know.
That's fair.
After the voodoo doll?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit about their physical transformations after they all start, getting the D.
Yeah. Once they've all been cockstruck.
Yeah.
Once they've all started boning the Prince of Darkness.
Getting the D by Daryl, which Cher describes as bending
in the wrong direction.
Can
we talk about that line? Because it gave me a complex when I was 17 years old. I was like, I didn't know dicks bent. I didn't know there was a wrong way they could bend.
There's a right direction?
Dick doesn't bend? Is that bad? Are they supposed to bend?
Were you picturing a 90-degree angle?
Yeah. Well, I actually thought it was like a zigzag, like a Harry Potter star.
Lightning bolt.
Like a corkscrew penis?
Ooh, like a duck. Oh, man. And then this conversation is on a bike ride, and so Cher goes, and she kind of goes like this, and just does this weird hand gesture, but it's not clarifying anything.
No, is it up,
more
down,
questions,
left, right, left and right?
Yeah. Only more questions. I think Janie would love him, and I think you would love him. So weird.
She's right.
Yeah, well, she was right.
So the transformation with Alex is that I think that it helps her have a breakthrough with her art. Right?
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's making a giant Venus of Willendorf as opposed to multiple small ones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. But yeah, Janie, Susan Sarandon.
Yes, Janie.
She has the biggest transformation, not only in her hair color, but it's a different cut and style in every scene.
Yeah.
They had a lot of multiple different lengths. There's layers.
Multiple wigs used.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, highlights.
She looks fantastic.
Yeah, she looks beautiful.
Everything Jane wears once she's gone to the dark side is top to bottom, fantastic.
That's one of those things about Susan Sarandon that we kind of forget, is that there was a time Dead Man Walking where Susan Sarandon was kind of like a sex bomb.
Yeah.
Like, she's either like the sexy, no-nonsense woman from Thelma and Louise. She's just like Bull Durham.
Yeah.
She's like serving it up in that movie, and also Rocky Horror Picture. So it's just like she's always had that edge to her career, but we've kind of forgotten about it.
Scott, I think you're forgetting a little movie called The Banger Sisters.
Oh yes, yes,
yes. Sexy Band-Aid.
I love her.
And I know that she's kind of a sore subject. We won't get into it too much. It's just like, is she canceled? I don't know. I don't know.
I will never cancel her.
It's like she's a little crazy even for the libs.
She can be as crazy as she wants. I'm into it. I am here for it.
So her first scene where we see her transformation, she's conducting this elementary school orchestra in a completely inappropriate for elementary school teaching costume.
She's wearing a tutu.
She looks like Madonna in like her 1984 videos.
Yes.
It's a tulle tutu and the like tight tank top.
Yes. A bare midriff.
It's tube top.
Susan Sarandon conducting looks like, one of those floppy things outside of the car dealership. Like, I am not even musically inclined, but I cannot imagine if anyone who's ever played in a band look at that. It must have been infuriating.
Well, she at one point throws the conducting baton just to the ground and just starts waving her hands around willy-nilly. I was thinking about that in her big like seduction scene, because there's a lot of hand close-ups of Susan and Jack Nicholson fake playing a cello and a violin. So if they had such little regard for the rules of tennis, they probably were just like, just make it work.
I think Susan's selling the cello though. Yeah, a little more than the tennis.
I agree with that, in that, like, because when they cut to Jack Nicholson playing the violin, I was like, no.
They did not bother hiding it.
He looks like he's like trying to saw it in half.
Well, we got smoke coming off of Susan's like cello strings, so maybe the intention was that was the intention.
I love her pouring the tea and it's overflowing.
Yeah, she's just so enraptured by his like conversation that she can't like even concentrate. So we get the crazy like Madonna tutu, bare midriff tube top, but then I feel like her most iconic look after the tennis bathing suit is probably the grocery shopping. Frilly socks.
Yes.
Like
she's not wearing a bra. Me and my friend Hunter always used to say that in college. She's not wearing a bra. So I work at a grocery store. I see a lot of people do some gross shit, especially now. I'm like the face mask police. Like, sir, bro, please please cover your nose with your mask, please. But I don't think I've seen people break open and eat shit when shopping. I don't think I've ever seen anyone open up a jar of pickles and just start eating them. That's a first.
Is that how we know how to spot a witch?
There you go.
Opens pickles at the store, willy-nilly.
They should just have her doing it like with a big cucumber. It's like taking bites out of the cucumber. Like, let's go all the way, like with a big eggplant, just raw eating an eggplant.
Just filleting a banana. Why not?
Oh my god!
And this is the scene where you really start to see the small town is like, kind of, no pun intended, like a witch hunt. Yeah, that it's fully like 1693. They're kind of branding them all as whores, too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're just up at this mansion, just like boning down with this grosso. I would be too, frankly. I'd be like, that's them. Those are the the swingers.
We'd be talking about them, but it would be with more reverence and less.
Oh yeah, also
like those are those three women who are fucking their brains out up in that mansion.
What
you think they'll sign my tits?
What did they see in that guy?
Do you think I can get an invite?
Must bend the wrong way.
And I love this small town that this is front page headliner news
on the newspaper.
Yes. Like this isn't even like a couple pages back in like the society columns. This is like front page news.
Well, I mean, Ron and Felicia own the newspaper or publish. I don't know what they do. They just edit it, whatever. But they're in charge of it, so
she owns it. I think he says at some point in the film that she owns it.
Yeah.
Can we let's talk about Felicia for a
second? Please.
Should we finish with Sookie because we haven't really done Sookie yet?
Sure.
So we see her first, I think.
Yeah. What is her big like physical transformation? Her hair gets a little bit more like funky 80s.
It's like a blown up perm.
It's like she got a stylist and a nanny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my God, who's watching her children?
I mean, I think that Fidel just sort of watches all of the kids.
No, Fidel's at the mansion. I think maybe Cher's daughter is watching Sookie's kids because Cher's daughter's like babysitter age.
Yeah.
So good luck with your 6 babies.
Honey, mommy needs to go out and have multiple orgasms. Tiffany from down the street's going to be here. Mommy's going to be so much happier when she gets back. Just sit tight, be good, eat whatever you want. Mommy's going to just go get her back blown out. See you later.
There's plenty of pickles in the fridge. Oh, wait, no, there's not. I ate them all.
That dialogue between Sookie and Daryl in the pool, I think, is so bizarre.
It's weird.
It's like, are these even sentences? Like, is this just this weird stream of consciousness of them talking about her life? I don't know. It's weird.
And what else is weird is that pool has a fire pit in the middle of it.
In the middle of it.
And I don't know. I think that's gay culture.
Yeah.
That fire pit in the middle of the pool is gay rights.
Like off your great hall, within your house, but off your great hall with a fire pit, and that's gay rights.
Yeah. Just curtains just everywhere, just gauzy,
diaphanous, flowing curtains.
Yes.
I will march for that pool, you guys. I will march for that pool.
Yeah. A precursor to be able to a bar and a pool, in like a hotel pool that you could like swim up to the bar. It just has that energy. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about Felicia and Veronica Cartwright's performance.
Just
she's pretty off the hook in this movie.
Yeah. So good.
So why is she, I know she's like the mayor of the town and probably
Is she the mayor?
I thought she was on like the town council.
Okay, sure.
She's the select woman. Isn't that mayor in a small town?
I don't know.
Okay,
At the very
can see
beginning
that.
of the movie, they call her the select woman.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But what
and like probably richest woman in town, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Also based on that house.
That house,
and also
crazy.
From like an old family in Eastwick too.
Yeah.
So like, how come she's the one that's like becomes the Cassandra figure? Like what?
Right.
Like what happens?
Right. Well,
I think that's something that's gone into a little more in the book. I don't really remember a lot of that.
Well, let me say this. The Wikipedia plot description describes the scene where she falls down the stairs as it says that she makes fun of his name when she says, like,
what kind of a name is that?
Daryl Van Horn. What kind of a name is that? and this is all...
Van Horn is a very foreign-sounding name in Eastwick.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe this is all punishment for her, but she is very kind of like, I guess... And I don't know if it's because of what's going on with her, but I guess she was supposed to have been, like, super religious. Or just very, like, devout or whatever. So maybe just because she had all of that Holy Spirit running all through her, that...
Daryl felt like he needed to take her down a few pegs.
Or Daryl just being in the town just affected her this way somehow. I don't know.
But she has that amazing line where she just turns to her husband and in a state of, like, complete lucidity goes, I have nothing against a good fuck, but there's danger here.
She's not wrong about a lot of... She's wrong about her, like, her take on it, but her actual facts are all correct.
And right before she dies, she did say that I have to warn them and like save these women from him too.
Well, yeah, because she called it. She said he wants to propagate. He wants to have sons and spread his evil throughout the world, which ultimately happens. So we just have to keep our fingers crossed that these three can keep turning off those TVs on his like giant wall of his Radio Shack wall of TVs.
Okay, spoiler alert, this movie ends with 3 antichrists being birthed into like a nice happy score.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So those kids are born in 1986. How are those women keeping track of their cell phones now?
Yeah. There's no way.
Those babies are my age, too.
Yeah, there's no way. These kids would fully be taking over multiple countries.
There was a sequel book written, but I did not read it. It's called The Widows of Eastwick.
Interesting. Yeah, Veronica Cartwright often plays a hysterical woman. You know,
yeah, I mean, she has the face for it.
She does have the face.
Even
for
as a
it.
child,
I was going to say,
even as a child in The Bird, she played like a hysterical little girl.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, she was being attacked.
She's brilliant. She doesn't have to do much. She has one of those faces that like you can read so much into it, and it's almost like she has like too many features. Like there's too much happening. All
yes, very exaggerated features, big mouth and big teeth and these big eyes, expressive eyes. Yeah,
yeah.
And she's one of those actresses that you always see show up and stuff. I remember she had a little arc on 6 Feet Under. She was Lisa's mother on 6 Feet Under, and yeah, you just see her just kind of come and go a lot in movies.
She plays Jack's mother on Will and Grace.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she does. And on the new season, she's not in it, but her character is referenced a lot.
I know. I'm like, where is she?
Yeah. So every time he has those phone calls, which are very funny phone calls, and I like this arc of him constantly being on the phone with his mom. It's really funny, and I wish they did it earlier. But I imagine her on the other end because I know it's her. But I'm just like, they should have brought her back. She's so good.
Yes. She's so good.
Yeah. Some of her hysterical. I mean, I feel bad saying hysterical because I mean the roots of that word is just so like, you know,
it also like its roots are kind of witchcraft too.
Yeah. So I feel bad even saying it, but you know these outbursts that she has, especially when Richard Jenkins is just like feeding her this pudding, just.
Richard Jenkins looks so weird with hair.
He looks so weird in this movie. Oh my god.
He's one of those people that's meant to be bald.
Yeah, and old. Yeah, he's definitely weird looking. Do I have some of Felicia? Oh, I do. Here, let's listen to some Felicia speech.
You sit there in that pathetic excuse of an office, reporting gossip. While under your very nose, evil is doing its worst. You have no spine, Clyde. Not 1 ounce of morality. First, even common sense. Nuclear holocaust, murder, rape, apartheid. Why, these words, they mean nothing to you.
It's just a local newspaper, Felicia.
His local turpitude. You are a failure, Clyde. You know you should be strung up along with that son of a bitch who bought that house. Call the nurse.
Some like ASMR action there. You could hear her like slurping that super pudding. Gross.
Oh man. But you know, like you guys, like we were saying, she's not wrong. Like in the long run, everything she's saying is kind of like, maybe we should listen to her.
What's crazy is like he never gets that bad. Like you know he has the potential to be totally evil and terrible, but like we never see a moment really where he like, aside from what he does to Felicia, which is terrible, but like before that, you don't see like anything that he does that could potentially affect anyone negatively.
Right.
I kind of wish the movie had gone further and had him be like more evil early.
Well, I was kind of thinking, because I was trying to figure out too, like why is she the one who like really loses her shit when this guy comes into town? And I was like, oh, it would have been interesting if they had done something like these 3 women get powers, but there has to be like a price that is paid.
Yeah.
Right. So like the cost is her sanity or the cost is like some part of her power is taken away. And that's why she starts to lose it.
So I think that they do stuff like that in the book with Felicia and Clyde's daughter. And I think that is kind of when they end up harming and essentially killing their daughter with cancer. Yeah. Kind of like they put this hex on her and she dies of cancer. I think that's when in the book you start to see them have some remorse and feel like we really have to get rid of Daryl.
But then that puts it on the 3 of them, though, not even on Daryl. So that's even,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, maybe that was kind of some kind of an implication of like what you were saying in that them gaining powers is coming from somewhere. And it probably, just didn't get fully fleshed out in the movie.
And also Daryl does physically harm Sookie, too.
Yeah, God.
True.
But only after they decide to leave him. Like, I would have liked a little more evil before that.
Yeah.
Just a little. Just a smidge.
Yeah.
Erika needs a little bit more projectile vomiting to really scratch that itch.
Well, I mean, just a little bit of viscera. Is it too much to ask in a family film?
Because if they didn't stop seeing, because the only reason they want to stop seeing him is because they're kind of getting shunned by the townsfolk. Some of the school kids have called Sookie a dyke. But other than that, nothing too bad is happening to them. So if they didn't stop seeing Daryl,
and Sookie loses her job.
Oh, Sookie gets fired.
Yeah, she gets fired.
Yeah, she gets fired. So it's starting to fall apart. Because I was going to say, what bad is happening from them, like, having, like, gross, 40-year-old fuck parties?
And that's kind of Janie's response when Sookie says that they should stop seeing each other. That's kind of Janie's response to all of that,
Susan
too.
Sarandon is very much like, well, who cares? Fuck them. Like, let us keep having our fun.
I've had 17 orgasms and it's a Tuesday. Why would I stop doing what I'm doing?
We ordered all these balloons. I mean, come on.
Where am I going to run in these satin gowns if I don't run through these hallways?
It's like kind of like a Meatloaf video. Like
very Bonnie Tyler, Total Eclipse of the Heart.
That opera song, that's my only context for opera music, is that song. It's in like pretty much anything, movies or TV, when you need an opera song, it's that.
It's called Nessun Dorma. It's very famous. But yeah, this is a precursor to, I know this is beforehand, but this is definitely a precursor to Celine Dion's It's All Coming Back to Me Now.
Yeah. Yes.
Her greatest video.
Yeah.
But
you know what else is interesting about, like, if we're talking about the villain of the movie, though, is that you have that school principal set up as the villain, and he doesn't get a comeuppance.
Yeah,
I almost feel like you wanted to see Janie punish him some sort. Like, I wonder if that's like a cut scene of the movie, because it almost seems like they were hinting at that, and then they didn't pay it off.
Yeah. There is that scene where he sees her conducting the orchestra of children.
And she is flopping like a car dealership floppy thing, Erika. She's not conducting.
she's having a fit in front of a school of children, and they're miraculously playing their instruments. And he kind of like sees it and flips out and runs away.
Yeah.
I actually had to rewind it because I was like, "Were one of the kids levitating? Why is he so freaked out?" There's nothing in that scene. Like it is slightly unusual.
Yeah.
Yes,
she's barefoot.
Yeah. But he like reacts to it like he walked in on like these children levitating and removing their own heads and stuff, and I'm like, what is this reaction?
Yeah, for sure. I think in a modern movie, they each would have to have some sort of exhibition of their powers outside of their circle.
Yeah,
and that brings me back to my thought when I was a kid. I was just like, they're not witchy enough. I don't feel like I wouldn't call what they're doing like witchcraft, and I wouldn't call them witches. Like, they are manifesting some kind of supernatural powers, but they get this book from his office that we never see set up.
Yeah.
This like book of spells book, you know, all of a sudden it's there, you know, and that's really the most like witchy stuff that they do. So yeah, I feel like they never really get to explore what they can do, what powers they have. I'm not really this stickler for like, well, why do they have powers? Like, where do they come from? Like, who cares? Whatever. They just have powers. You know,
all women are witches. Just go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, it just feels a little bit like there's so many questions, and maybe they don't have to get answered. Maybe that's just the fun of watching the movie and having these conversations. But like all these questions of just like, okay, they mentioned witchcraft because Jane says that they burned witches at this house before. And I do remember like a lot of descriptions of the movie at the time, like movie reviews and things would often refer to Jack Nicholson's character, refer to Daryl implicitly as the devil, you know? Mm-hmm. So I don't know, it makes me think maybe it was in some kind of like press packages or something.
So that is what I thought the movie was before. Like I watched it today for the first time ever, and if you'd asked me yesterday, I'd say 3 witches and the devil. Like 3 women who are witches meet the devil. And that's all I knew about the movie. And it was crazy to me how the word witch is, like, you're right, like never really even said in the film.
Yeah.
It's also really interesting to try to figure out how their powers interplay with each other. Like, because, you know, if you think about like witches and the devil, you would kind of think that, okay, witches worship the devil. So their power comes from him, but his power also comes from their worship of him. Yeah. Right. So like there's like this interplay.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of not what the movie is.
No,
like,
and they can.
That it's not in there, but like,
but they can make things happen together even before they meet Daryl because they sort of make it rain. When they both think of the same thing, it can happen. And also, there's that bit when Alex and Sookie are talking, and Sookie is at work, and she said, "Who is that? Is that Clyde and Felicia?" And they walk in before she says it. Yeah. So, like, Alex sort of like can see them coming before they're even in the room.
It's their power of 3.
It's the power of women.
It's the power of 3.
Of like.
I also love, so I was going to go back a little bit, how like Jack Nicholson keeps his like grimoire just like in a glass table where no one can see it. It's not even in a drawer.
No.
It's a showpiece, Erika.
Yeah.
Don't you keep your grimoire where people can see it? If they can't see it, they don't know you have one.
Yes.
What's it called?
It's on my altar next to my voodoo doll. Don't ask any questions. Don't worry about it.
Covered by my velvet cloak.
Yes. And I feel like there was a key. I think that she had to unlock the case. So it's like, yes, it's under lock and key, but she found the key pretty easily.
She knew where it was.
Yeah. It's a glass case. She could
break it.
The key is just hidden under like a rock on top of the case.
It says definitely not grimoire key.
Yeah. Yeah, it did have a name on it.
What's the book called?
It was called like Maleficent or something.
Magnifique?
Yeah, it had a weird
something like that.
It was missing an eyeball that moved around and followed you.
Yep.
Did not appear to be made of human skin, but you know.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been.
But I did like, as a kid, it was something that was really cool the way that they did build this doll, you know, using pieces. There was like underwear and they got hair from like a brush and all that stuff and using bits. And that was very, to me, just like, oh, that's how witches do it. You know? It's just very like witchy, like 101. Like, well, you need some of their personal items
of clothing, a little lock of hair.
Yeah,
a $4,000 Le Creuset copper pot.
Yes.
Yep. Lots of candles.
She made a double boiler to boil those candles. I was like, that's smart, Cher. You don't want to scorch
softer heat.
You don't want to scorch that pan. Yes, the amount of La Creuset like in this kitchen. But I mean, come on, this house, he's got to have a nice pot, you know.
That kitchen approaches Nancy Meyers.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful island.
Yeah.
If Nancy Meyers was to make a witch's kitchen.
Oh God,
Nancy Meyers should do a witch movie.
Definitely needs to do a witch movie.
How has this not happened?
It would be like a witch trying to like, I don't know. Like, it would be an old witch trying to reconnect with her younger self.
Yeah.
She meets like
Diane
an old flame.
Keaton, Diane Wiest, and Diane Ladd are your coven.
Yes.
The devil is being played by Chris Hemsworth.
Oh my God.
Just go.
Yeah. They're white witches, obviously, as illustrated by their white turtlenecks. And...
Right. And their universal whiteness.
Yeah, yes.
And their caucasity.
Yes.
They can turn water into white wine.
Yeah.
It writes itself. Come on, Nora.
Yeah.
Just keep us in the loop. I love the use of Lurch in this movie.
Yes.
That is him, right?
Yeah, it's totally Lurch. Yes, I remember him from Star Trek: The Next Generation. He played Mr. Home. He had a recurring role on that, and he also is from Pasadena. He was a Pasadena native.
He's from our town.
I used to see him a lot in college.
Oh,
good old Lurch. His name's not Lurch. He's from Hungary or something. Yeah, this movie is extremely well cast, but I agree. There was stuff with kind of like unresolved things, like with the principal, and things that a more modern take they would have to pay off, like you were saying. Like I think each one of them would have had to have paid off these powers, and I think that something about how ambiguous the movie is kind of wouldn't fly today, because I feel like people pick shit apart so easily, you know? I mean, like we're doing now, but we're doing it for the fun of this. But I think something about movies of that era were able to leave things a little bit more ambiguous. But like I said, I feel like in the press everywhere, it was just like, yes, he is the devil. But when you watch it, you're just like, oh, I don't know. Maybe he's just a lesser demon.
Yeah.
But it works, you know? And there have been several attempts at television versions.
Oh, there has been. Unaired pilots. A 2009 series on ABC with Rebecca Romaine.
And Lindsay Price.
I watched that shit.
Oh, yep. Did you watch the whole season?
Because I love this movie so much. And I actually like Rebecca Romaine a lot. I think she's a very, I don't think she's the greatest actress ever, but I think she's very charismatic. And you just kind of like her.
Yeah, for sure.
So I definitely watched at least... Maybe not the whole thing, but a chunk of it.
Nice.
In 2002, there was a pilot that didn't go to series with Marcia Cross as Jane, Kelly Rutherford as Alex, and Lori Loughlin as Sookie. It did not get picked up.
Yeah.
I want it now.
Who played Daryl?
You can't have it now. Lori's busy.
Yeah.
Jason O'Mara? I'm not super familiar with him. Jason O'Mara.
I'm not familiar with Jason O'Mara.
I could see Marcia Cross from Desperate Housewives as Jane.
Oh, yeah.
But they wouldn't do the big crazy frizzy hair, though.
That's what's the best part about the end of the movie is them in those silk... And those silk jammies.
And Marcia Cross is so like severe and like tragic and just like straight flat hair and waspy. I feel like for her to like cut loose and be like crazy, you know, conductor, crazy hair.
But did you see her in Melrose Place?
This is true. Dr. Kimberly Shaw.
Yeah. Taking that wig off in the mirror.
That's true.
I didn't watch that show, but I know that clip.
Oh, we all know. Yeah.
That clip is canon. That clip is 90s canon.
We all know. We watched the other day. We were like just kind of going through Melrose. Was it on Hulu?
We were watching season 3 of Melrose Place, and it's the aftermath of Melrose blowing up. And it is off the ground and running.
We caught, because they did a recap, and they show, the episode starts with the explosion of Melrose Place. It is insane. There are stunt people flying.
It blows up in the second season?
I think it's the end of the third season.
Is it the end of the third or the end of the second?
I think it's the end of the third season going into season 4.
That is still so early.
That's still so wild. Yeah. Because they barely introduced half the characters at the beginning of season 2. Because season 1, they pretty much like wiped the slate with half the cast. So, yeah. It's nuts. Oh. That's Melrose Place.
Well,
man.
you've been listening to Melrose Talk.
I know. This is our brief foray into Melrose Talk. We love Melrose Place. It's an amazing, terrible show. Oh, boy. Where are we in this movie?
I mean, we're kind of in the last act.
Yes.
When they feel like they have to get rid of Daryl, so they make the voodoo doll.
Well, they really feel like they need to get rid of Daryl because Clyde... Okay, Felicia granted, Felicia's throwing up cherry pits all over the place. She's like, she's having this like mental breakdown. But like Clyde, man,
it just sets him off.
Yeah. He ultimately kills her with a fireplace poker. And
I feel like it's done in an act of mercy, right? Like he feels so bad for her because she's going so crazy.
Yeah,
and it doesn't feel to me like he's doing it out of like anger or anything. He's just trying to end her misery.
Yeah, because he keeps seeing her; she's not getting better.
Yeah,
like ever since she breaks her leg.
But these three women can see that Daryl's actions are affecting the town like that too.
Yeah, so they they try unsuccessfully to kind of break up with him. It doesn't work. So they're like, okay, we're going to go back to the house, trick him into thinking we're getting back together with him. And clearly they just like bone all night. Because the next morning they send him out for bagels and ice cream.
This movie, the climax of this movie is a gay brunch.
Yeah.
Everyone has fucked their ex the night before. They all knew they shouldn't do it, but they just had to do it one more time, get it out of their systems, and then they basically try to perform an exorcism. This is like, this is an advanced course when you get your gay master's degree.
Yeah.
You're like, you're gonna fuck an ex that you didn't mean to. You just have to burn some pictures the next day, get some boys around you. It's basically in Hell's Kitchen on any given Sunday. They are exorcising the demon from your system.
This is true. Yeah. It's Palm Springs in the dead of summer. So they go to the house fully. They do it. They all fuck him.
I love
they have a big orgy.
I love what Cher walks out of the car wearing. Alex's character just owns this.
This is the lace up, no underwear skirt. Like
it's like something that Cher would be wearing to the Grammys in '87.
Yeah.
It is Bob Mackie Cher.
Yeah.
It is 100% Bob Mackie Cher.
Yeah.
But Alex just has this in her closet.
Yeah.
So this town has a Fredericks of Hollywood, is what this movie is.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Was it mail order? And maybe it's close enough to a big city.
Maybe Fidel whipped it up for her.
There you go.
Fidel seems like a jack of all trades.
Yeah. Fidel's making it happen, definitely. When he tells Fidel in the morning, he's like, all right, we got to go into town. They have a craving for bagels and ice cream. So I'm like, does he know that they're knocked up? Do we know that all three of them are knocked up, or did we just know that Jane was?
No, all three of them. Because they all say it in
we all
the
know
hospital.
at that point. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he says they have a craving for bagels and ice cream. So I was like, I wonder if he knows that they're pregnant.
I mean, he's the devil, right? He must know.
Yeah. And again, that was what we find out is that was probably his intention, to find these women, to have his concubines to propagate, as Felicia says. And so he goes into town to get bagels and ice cream, and it's like this huge ordeal.
Yeah.
But what does he say when the guy says that he's the freezer's broken, and he goes, okay, I'll just take the bread and the bread and the newspaper, the bread and the fish.
The bread and the fish.
And something about...
He does pick up the proper amount of ice cream, though, like those 2 full tubs of ice cream.
But something about referring to bagels as the bread is just wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we think that's like a weird biblical...
The bread and the fish.
I just need some loaves and some fish, okay?
I mean, probably.
Yeah.
I would love another 10-minute scene of him having to go shop to shop to get everything.
Oh my God. Yeah, I loved it. I was like,
do you have any sprinkles? No? Okay, I'll go next door. Thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, why didn't they get more specific? He could have, if the freezer hadn't broken, he would have been back like way earlier.
They would have had to know that the freezer was broken, so we would have to go to multiple stores.
Sure. Yeah, maybe. But
maybe they broke the freezer with the power of their mind.
Power of 3. Yeah, they used it again to break that freezer. Yeah, but this is when they break into the grimoire. How do you pronounce that word?
I said grimoire.
Grimoire, yeah. And start making this awesome voodoo doll, complete with a hard dick.
Yep.
Oh, I missed that.
I think that scandalized me when I used to watch this.
Yeah, we need to take a pause for you to go back. This wax voodoo doll fully has a hard dick.
Yep.
And it does not fall off after the dog runs. It is there the entire
That dick is staying.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing.
Well, that's his best feature, right?
Now,
is the dick crooked?
No, it's straight.
Straight.
They answered none of those questions that I had. It would have been amazing if they could have had a scene of them being like, "No, it's more like this."
It curves this
really
way.
Trying to get the dick right.
Or if the dick is weirdly different for all of them.
Yeah. Oh man.
Well, they do each have a different ideal dick.
Yeah,
Suki likes it big. I mean, she's had 6 kids, so fair. And then.
You gotta have a tank going down that way.
Yeah. At this point, anything less.
And then Jane says she likes them really small, which is the first time I've ever heard any woman say that.
But she just says purely aesthetically. She said she didn't want to look at it because it was too big.
Well, her ex-husband's dick was really big.
Yeah, that's what she said. Sometimes I just couldn't face it.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't say it hurt. She doesn't say anything like that. She's just I just didn't want to look at it.
I just didn't like looking at that.
Just gross.
I just couldn't take it all in at once.
Yeah. And then Cher, surprisingly, is just I like it in the middle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Either way.
I mean, Suki likes her a big dick.
Yeah. But, so they make this crazy voodoo doll. They start, pinning him, right in the middle of the ice cream shop.
Their idea is to cast him out. How is this voodoo doll supposed to get rid of him? They're mainly just, doing shit to him. How do they cast him out of Eastwick altogether?
It feels like they needed to turn the page on the grimoire to read the end of the spell.
Yeah.
It feels like they only got 3 cards the way through and we got this.
Yeah.
So I thought this movie was going to where they were just showing him the extent of their power.
Right.
To be you have to take us seriously. You need to leave. When we say leave, we mean it.
Yeah.
And we will fuck with you if you don't. So, but it didn't kind of go there. That's where I thought it was going.
Yeah.
And then it didn't go there.
I think that's the idea of the scene. I think.
Yeah, because when Suki's afraid, we don't want to kill him, and then Alex says we don't want to kill him, we just want to send him away or whatever. So yeah, I think that was maybe the intention. But then when he finally does make it back to the house, and we've got this final showdown. Yeah, it is kind of a weird showdown at the end.
Yeah.
Do we think he just leaves of his own volition, or do we think they somehow cast him out?
I think they somehow cast him out when they throw it into the fire.
I think somehow the destruction of the voodoo doll is meant... Maybe that's supposed to be they are so powerful, they were able to get so much of... they were able to infuse the voodoo doll with so much power that it actually did have the power to cast him out by destroying it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like that.
I love I love what they're all doing as busy work when they're in the TV room and Alex is eating a banana and Jane is fake reading a book, probably upside down.
Oh, when he does get home?
Yeah.
She's got this giant banana. Yeah. Yeah, so ultimately, this is when we do get the weird, crazy, maybe CGI, possibly practical puppet of disgusting Jack Nicholson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was weird. It looks kind of like a dinosaur, like a brontosaurus with Jack Nicholson's head on top of it.
Yeah.
And then the weird embryo creature.
Yeah,
that he turns into.
Well, it's the doll is melting, so I'm assuming that's what we're looking at, his essence.
This must have been this must have been the compromise for John Peters' Alien.
He got a creature. He got some kind of a creature. Yeah. But then we finally cut after they do cast him out. We cut to, what does it say? 13 months later or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
18 months.
18 months later.
So I guess that all of these women just now own this mansion. So I was
they live there?
I thought maybe Fidel's name is on the lease or is in the name of the house and he's just letting them live there. That's how I reason it.
That makes sense.
That
I
it's
think
technically
that's just
Fidel's
law in Rhode
house.
Island that if you kick your boyfriend out, you get to keep his house.
It's some kind of weird community property law.
It's just like at the very bottom of the page, it's like, oh, and if the boyfriend is the devil, you can live there for free.
And hey, they're probably letting the snowy egrets stay.
Yeah, they seem to be okay with the snowy egrets. Why was Jack Nicholson staying snowy egrets?
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
I did.
A weird Jack Nicholson line reading.
Yeah.
That no one...
Do you think they tried to tell him how to say it otherwise, and he was like, no.
I was going to say no one wanted to correct him on set.
He also Jack Nicholson announced Charlize Theron's Oscar win. He had the envelope, and he opened the envelope, and Charlize Theron won, and he had the envelope in his hand, and he said, and the Oscar goes to Charlize Theron. He said
No.
Theron. So I'm thinking he just says it how he's going to say it.
He really doesn't care.
Yeah. He was preparing us for Adele Dazeem.
Yeah.
He was like,
well, I was going to say...
once you reach a certain level, we don't care anymore.
He was preparing ourselves when he later read Crash in Best Picture.
It's like, no, sir, you mispronounced Capote.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, man. So, they each have their little, like, Daryl
Antichrist.
Offspring. Antichrist. What the fuck? And, I mean, if American Horror Story has taught us anything, and it hasn't.
Correct.
It's that this is a real nature versus nurture situation.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they'll just be 3 fabulous warlocks that just like rule the East Coast.
Sure.
They run like bed and breakfasts down the coast.
Possibly.
They are my age. If they were born in 86.
They'd be in their mid-30s now.
Yeah.
Just ruling the roost over there in Eastwick.
Are they the Hemsworths? Is this what we're saying?
Possibly.
Is it the Hemsworth brothers?
They later moved to Australia.
I like that they each have, like, they're all mirroring their mothers, and there's a blonde, a brunette, and a redhead.
Yes.
Even though Susan Sarandon started this movie definitely in the more Auburn family.
I think that was their attempt to, again, make her look like a single mother of 6. They were like, single mothers of 6 don't have blonde hair.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Can we cut real fast? I just want to discuss the cold sore.
Oh, yes.
Right. We forgot the cold sore.
What happened with that? Do we think that, like, Michelle Pfeiffer legit had a cold sore?
I think it looks real.
Okay, there's a I remembered the cold sore from, like, just knowing that it exists. And as I watched it last night, there's a shot with her and Clyde where right after when Cher says, oh, is that Felicia and Clyde? And it's very early in the movie, and it's like, it's there, but it's not fully blown yet. So it's like, so if they just shot this out of continuity or whatever... So I was like, oh, maybe they're setting it up. Like, it's there and it's growing and later on it'll be bigger. But then in other scenes, it's not there. So I don't know. It just brought up more questions.
It was because I first noticed it in the scene when Daryl goes to Sookie's to try to get her to take him back.
Yeah.
Yep, me
and
too.
It's kind of a dimly lit scene.
Yep.
And she comes to get the door. And I was like, oh, she has something on her face. And I legit, like, did the work for the movie. And I was like, oh, she has 6 kids. I'm sure it's just, like, food that one of them, like, threw at her.
I saw the same thing. I was like, maybe because she's going through a breakup, maybe they're going to cut to her, like, just downing, like...
Yeah.
And then the next scene, he starts to affect her and put her in pain. And I'm like, okay, but why does she still have that food on her face? I was like, oh, it's not food, it's a cold sore.
It's a cold sore. Yeah. Does he ever kiss her with it?
Yes. Well, no, not with the cold sore. He does kiss her right after she gets better, but the cold sore's gone now.
So weird. Yeah.
The cold sore is gone when she's in the hospital. When she's dying in the hospital, there's no cold sore.
No, I think that there is a cold sore in the hospital.
There's a cold sore in the hospital.
Yeah.
Oh, there is? Okay.
Yeah.
Too much.
I mean, beautiful people like Michelle Pfeiffer.
They get HPV too.
They get cold sores too.
I
Stars are just like us. They're embarrassed to go to work because they have a gigantic cold sore, and they have to do it anyway.
But if
the director is an asshole and puts it in the movie,
leaves it in.
I'd be so pissed if I was Michelle. And that happened.
Which makes me think it has to be fake, because wouldn't they at least try to cover it up with makeup? It would be all like bumpy, but still.
I think that George Miller just saw it and just said, "Let's just roll with it." She has a cold sore in this scene.
Maybe she's so gorgeous that she's one of those beautiful people who's like, "Oh, I have a cold sore. Put it in."
Yeah,
like, let
sure.
people see that I'm human. Like she is standing next to Susan Sarandon and Cher, who are two of the most beautiful women in the world, and it is just like no contest. Michelle Pfeiffer is fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. She could have just been like, "All right, we're going with it. We're working with it. We're letting it roll." I don't know. It's one of those like movie legends, but it's not anywhere in the IMDb trivia.
No.
Nobody ever. There has to be like a Reddit thread about like what the fuck is the deal with this cold sore. And if not, we're starting one today.
Yeah.
Everybody jump on. Oh man, do we have any final thoughts to wrap up this movie?
I mean, my final thoughts is that I just loved these women as a kid, and I still love them now. It's just like, and it's such an unusual movie to grow up on, but it's so iconic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nothing beats that shot of all three of them looking out the window in their silk PJs and their beautiful curly hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think this did to you, like being like a moment in your childhood? Like, how do you think you like relate to women differently because of Witches of Eastwick?
I can definitely get down on some girl talk. I've always been like a guy that secretly loves to like spend a night out with the gals. And yeah, I think some of that comes down to this movie, in that I just secretly always wanted to be invited to martini night on Thursdays.
You want to join the coven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just
I
like
love that.
And just like all children and gay boys and girls for that matter are just obsessed with witches too.
Yeah.
We all love that shit.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's got witches in the name. It's this like supernatural like storyline, and there's like special effects and all this crazy stuff that kids love about movies, but it's not made for kids. So when you watch it as a kid, you're just like, yeah, I love that that's got like, you know, dark and stormy nights, and there's like demons and, you know, magic powers and all of that. But then like this crazy adult talk, you know, and adult situations. You're just like, oh, I don't know if I should be watching this.
And kind of thinking about
but
how...
I'm not turning it off.
Yeah. Kind of thinking about how movies are made now. I mean, it's kind of really hard to get three huge A-listers together in a...
Four.
Yeah. In a movie like this. Like, you don't see that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you either have to shoot your wad with one really famous one and then kind of budget out your other actors so you could afford your movie star. But this movie
actors.
just, like, it had them all. And you saw that a lot in movies at this time, too.
Yeah.
I almost feel like they don't make movie stars like they used to.
No way. Yeah.
I mean, I love like Emma Stone, right? Emma Stone is definitely a movie star. But maybe it's social media because you have so much access to them personally.
Yes.
You feel like Michelle Pfeiffer, Cher, they were like unknowable. They were like royalty. Like,
you would see like
us,
you would see Cher in issues of like The Inquirer, but that was it. And just Cher's very local, like her very public dating life. Also, 1987 was a very good year for Cher because this is the year that she won the Oscar, and she was dating the Bagel Boy.
Bagel Boy.
So it's like
maybe that's why she sent him out for bagels in the movie.
So it's like you cannot touch.
That was a directive.
You cannot touch late '80s Cher. I found someone like you, so good.
Yeah.
If they were to make this movie today, like who would be our three? Who would be the three women?
Yeah.
I think Emma Stone would actually kill as like.
I think Emma Stone would actually be good as Jane.
Yeah, I agree.
It would be fun to see Kate Hudson as in the Sarandon role.
Yeah.
Or Sookie. Yep.
Yeah.
Rose Byrne could kind of be Alex.
Yes, I could see that.
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah. Or even better, like Jodie Turner-Smith from Queen and Slim.
Oh yeah. Yeah, true. I'm just gonna be the basic bitch and say Lady Gaga should play Alex.
Are you guys living on Planet Chromatica?
Oh my goodness, we are. Good. We got our passports. Mm-hmm. We are naturalized citizens.
We may have missed the Gaga Vegas concert this month, but I'm living for that album now.
Yeah. Our tickets for our Gaga residency were canceled, but someday. But yeah, we're fully naturalized citizens of Chromatica at this point.
Gaga needs like a Witches of Eastwick concept video or something.
I mean, she could do it.
Mm-hmm.
She would do well to follow, like, kind of Cher's footsteps. Like, she has a really, like, critically lauded performance now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if she could find a movie kind of like this, where it's going to get good reviews, but it's also not going to be super self-serious.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really good next project for her.
I mean, we were talking about the career of Cher in that people kind of forget, or like, if you're comparing her to Madonna, and I really hate to pit them together, but Cher saw the type of success that Madonna never had, which was really like hitting it big in movies, winning the fucking Oscar, and being like a critical darling for it. Like, Madonna sort of got there, but it didn't quite come together.
But you know what's weird? I almost feel like Madonna is still more respected than Cher is.
Yeah, Cher, I feel like could be seen as a little bit more like fluky as far as her like acting career.
Yeah,
which is bonkers because I think she's an amazing actress.
Yeah,
she's
agreed.
So good.
Yeah,
this is controversial. I think she's a better actress than she is a singer.
I agree.
What?
Should you just want to cut my mic?
No. I mean,
cut your throat.
I mean, she is the best part about burlesque.
Her and Kristen Bell. Kristen Bell knows exactly what
Nikki,
movie
don't drive.
Oh, yes,
Nikki.
I do love Alan Cumming in burlesque.
Yeah, Cher's Cher's singing is very specific, and it's almost become like a parody of itself, you know? So, whereas her acting is just so natural and just like, I agree. But I mean, her singing's amazing though too. We can watch Cher videos on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
both excellent.
Both excellent.
Yeah,
indeed. Well, do you two have any final thoughts on the Witches of Eastwick as we wrap up our little show?
How do you think the Witches of Eastwick aged? Kind of tying it back into your show.
Oh, that's interesting.
No people of color. That's a problem.
Okay, yes.
There's some.
I know it takes place in
Rhode Island.
I think that there's like a black extra or two, but that's about it. This is a pretty white town of Rhode Island.
They're even trying to save snowy egrets. Like they're even.
Yeah, that's like the whitest cause ever.
Why they got to be snowy?
But like the three female roles are great. Like they're pretty. They're distinct.
Yeah,
and being performed wonderfully.
Weirdly, I don't know if it passes the Bechdel test though.
They're always talking about a man.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm okay with it in this context, but I just want to point it out. I don't think it passes the Bechdel test. I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 10.
Sure.
For aging well.
Okay.
I was thinking like I would give it a 7 out of 10 gay exorcisms or something like.
And 7 out of 10 flowy white satin nightgowns that you can run through a mansion hallway.
7 out of 10 dicks bending the wrong way.
And they're like, and they're attempting to take down the patriarchy with this like voodoo doll too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, there's no way that those women weren't fucking each other during that. It wasn't like two were waiting for Daryl's attention. So there's some good bisexual representation.
Yes, indeed.
I honestly think if they made it today, that they would hit on that harder. Like Alex would realize that she's gay.
Yeah.
Or that she's bisexual.
They'd have to. They couldn't just leave it unaddressed for sure. Oh my goodness. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
This was so fun. Thank you for having us.
Oh, you're
welcome.
welcome.
We pre-coronavirus we were supposed to do this with Paul in person, but we'll have to save that for another time.
Yeah, indeed.
Had to cancel that flight to LA.
Yeah, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on our show. Why don't you talk a little bit about how our listeners can find y'all, social media, where they can find your show?
So our podcast is called That Aged Well. We talk about movies from the 80s and 90s and about how they've aged. We talk about their rampant homophobia and sexism and racism, but we make it funny, make it fun.
Well, we also talk about like how we grew up watching that stuff and like how that kind of like worked its way into our psyches.
Yes. Yeah. So you can find us That Aged Well on anywhere you get your podcasts, or you can follow us on social media. We're That Aged Well on Instagram, That Aged Well Pod on Twitter, and that's us. Please come listen. We have fun.
I was just listening to Troop Beverly Hills today in my walk.
Love it.
Iconic.
Phyllis Neffler.
Phyllis. She's like
that was our second episode of the show.
That was our second episode. Love that movie so much. Well, listeners, we would love it if you would rate and review and follow our podcast. You can find us on social media. We're at Movies That Made Us Gay on Facebook and Instagram, and at MTMUG Pod on Twitter. We'd love it if you go and rate us.
Give us 5 stars.
5 stars. Give us 5 stars.
Get up that rating.
iTunes. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.